At the very least, The Last of Us' first and only piece of single-player DLC, Left Behind, provides an excuse to play The Last of Us for a few more hours. And that alone is worthy of praise, since The Last of Us is very easily one of the best games, if not the best game, released during the last generation. But Left Behind isn't derivative or mailed in. It doesn't simply replicate a slice of Joel and Ellie's voyage together in the main campaign. Rather, it puts a new spin on things, both in how combat plays out and in the story, giving us a prologue-heavy taste that puts important components of The Last of Us into revealing context. What I was most riveted by from my experience with The Last of Us' campaign was its sense of exploration and adventure. I loved fighting the infected, I reveled in stealthily killing or outright avoiding fellow survivors, and crafting new weapons and goods was rewarding. But seeing the post-pandemic United States in all of its overgrown, abandoned glory and pouring through forgotten houses, digging through drawers in hopes of finding precious materials, and finding remnants of a sacked civilization was what made the entire experience really stand apart. The sense of wonder that exploration gives me has returned with force in Left Behind. It has its share of secrets and amazing story-bending moments, secrets and moments I won't spoil. But the heart of the 2 to 3 hour story revolves around two girls exploring a decrepit mall. Its approach is simple and focused, and surprisingly grounded too. I love how the DLC is largely predicated on a task girls would do in the pre-pandemic world, nonetheless one ravaged by cordyceps. One half of The Last of Us' protagonist duo, the young teen named Ellie, returns in Left Behind, and we're also introduced to her slightly older friend Riley, a character first shown in the companion comic books for The Last of Us called American Dreams. Ellie and Riley are old pals, having grown up together in Boston's quarantine zone, and it shows almost immediately.
What did the triangle say to the circle?
What is that?
You're so pointless.
You found another pun book?
What did the cannibal get when he showed up to the party late?
Their rapport sets a pleasant cadence, and while Ashley Johnson's performance of Ellie is just as strong and memorable as it is in the campaign, newcomer Yanni King complements her wonderfully. The two girls set off on their adventure to a nearby mall, exploring and endlessly chattering, similar in nature to the way Joel and Ellie fill empty time with character-building conversation. The difference here is that since Left Behind takes place before the events of The Last of Us, we get to see a more comfortable and at-home Ellie. She's still brash and she's still headstrong, but she can be herself with Riley. The two are constantly joking and playing around as they uncover the secrets of the Boston area mall, and witnessing their brief adventure together gives welcome context to later events. Left Behind has its share of combat, much of it mixed with new twists. For starters, Ellie inherently can't handle herself like Joel can. While Joel can occasionally use brute force to keep the infected and fellow survivors alike at bay, Ellie is smaller and feebler. It forces you to approach combat differently. She can slice and dice with her small switchblade, but in reality she needs to keep distance between her and her foes when at all possible. Much of this plays out with a combat dynamic completely unseen in the original game. In The Last of Us, you regularly do battle with infected and with humans. Here, you'll regularly have to fight both at the same time. The key is to distract and confuse both sides so that they focus on each other and not you. A stray gunshot here, a thrown bottle there, and suddenly the infected and your human enemies are going at each other with nary a glance in your direction. This is exceptionally clever, and I wish we could have seen this extra dynamic in the main campaign. Still, I can't help but wonder if Left Behind really needed combat at all. Its thoughtful approach and its explorative qualities were somewhat undercut by fights that, at times, seemed forced, especially at the very end. I understand that developer Naughty Dog has to try to appeal to everyone, and that success in The Last of Us was contingent on surviving a number of brutal battles. Still, I would have loved this DLC to be bold enough to forego combat completely, because I'm not so sure fighting was necessary at all. I loved playing through Left Behind. Even though it's a relatively short experience, it'll take the most thorough players no more than 3 hours or so to complete. It's chock full of collectibles to find and conversations to uncover apart from the main story. And that main thread adds great context to important events in The Last of Us. At the very least, it'll give you a few more precious hours of game time in one of the most expertly realized game worlds ever concocted.
One second here.
These guys.
I hear infected.
Get down. Wait for the others. So many of them!